51 p.m. Call the session back to order. Okay, we left off going into new business number 7. Oh, excuse me. Got one thing to take care of real quick, formality in regards to the personnel policy, the legislative resolution. Eric made a recommendation to keep it in committee. It was not in committee, it was tabled at the last session, and he wants to make a recommendation.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we just go ahead and table this, our motion, I'll make a motion to table this resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislators to revise the legislation branch personal practice and policy manual. I'd like to go ahead and just make a motion to table.
Seconded by Councilor Gozahid. All in favor, raise your right hands. All abstained. What was that count? 13-0-0. Motion carries. Table the second time. Okay, moving on to new business. Joint action resolutions. A joint action resolution entitled Designation of Tribal Trust Lands for Owners' Use by Sullivan Cattle Company, Inc. Speaker recognizes Bill Watt for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this is a joint action resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislature and the Crow Tribal Executive Branch entitled Designation of Crow Tribal Trust Lands for Owners' Use by Sullivan Cattle Company, Inc.
Need a motion to adopt. Motion by Councilor Gozahid. Second. Second by Bryce Huggs. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas under Article 5, Section 2A of the Crow Tribal Constitution, the Crow Tribal Legislative Branch of Government, hereinafter legislature, has the power and duty to promulgate and adopt laws, resolutions, ordinances, codes, regulations, and guidelines in accordance with the Constitution and federal laws for the governance of the Crow Tribe, providing for the manner of sale, disposition, leasing, or encumbrance of tribal assets, and providing for the licensing of members and non-members for various purposes. And whereas under Article 5, Section 2C of the Crow Tribal Constitution, the legislature has the power and duty to adopt legislation, charter, and instrumentalities of the Crow Tribe for the purposes of economic development, housing, education, or other purposes not inconsistent with the Tribal Constitution. And whereas opportunities exist for the Crow Tribe to operate its own high-quality cattle ranching operations to provide employment opportunities for tribal members and to assist in realization of the greatest economic returns to the tribe or its agricultural lands. And whereas Joint Action Resolution number 14-11, enacted by the legislature on May 14, 2014, and approved by the Chairman of the Executive Branch on May 21, 2014, approved the Articles of Incorporation for Sullivan Cattle Company, Inc., the company, as a for-profit privately owned corporation to engage in the business of cattle ranching and associated farming for the purposes of economic development, raising the standard of living and education for tribal members, and obtaining the highest value possible for the tribe's natural resources. And whereas Section 2 of JAR 1411 designated as a matter of Crow tribal law the P lands comprising the East Prior Ranch for the use and benefit of the company. However, most of the lands described in the attachment to JAR 1411 are currently held in trust for the Crow tribe by the United States of America. And whereas Section 2 of JAR 1411 further provides that any additional Crow tribal lands to be designated for the use and benefit of the company shall only be as established by a future joint action resolution which declares owner's use pursuant to Article 2 of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. And whereas additional Crow tribal lands are necessary for the company's operations, and it is also necessary to clarify the status of lands designated by JAR 14-11. Now therefore be it resolved by the legislature and the executive branch of the Crow tribe in special session, Section 1, additional tribal land dedicated to company use. It is hereby declared that the following described tribal trust lands are dedicated for owner's use pursuant to Article 2 of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty and reserved and designated for use and benefit of the Insolica Cattle Company, the company, a for-profit privately owned corporation. See Exhibit A, incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, clarification of East Prior lands dedicated to company use. The ownership status of the lands known as the East Prior Ranch and designated for the use and benefit of the company pursuant to Section 2 of JAR 1411 is clarified as to their fee or trust status as set forth below, and the dedication of all such lands for the use and benefit of the company, subject only to any existing third-party leases, is hereby reaffirmed. See Exhibit B, incorporated herein by reference. Section 3, inapplicability of the Crow Tribal Lease Ordinance to designated land. The 2009 Crow Tribal Leasing Ordinance, enacted by CLB number 09-04, shall have no applicability to the operations of the company, provided that the company shall be authorized to lease lands not owned by the Crow tribe in the same manner as a Crow tribal member. The brackets, the company shall not be required to make any lease payments to the tribal government or Bureau of Indian Affairs for the use of tribal land designated for its use and benefit, close bracket. Section 4, effective date. This tribal resolution, including the articles, shall be effective immediately upon being duly adopted by the legislature and approved by the chairman of the executive branch.
Thank you. You have 30 minutes for a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll just recite some of the additional work that's been done on this. In a Natural Resources Committee meeting on June 11th, we talked about this in some detail, and I have provided the committee and the legislature's attorney with a substitute version, a draft substitute version. We've discussed that some, but have not had a full committee meeting to review the revised language. Just by way of summary, the additions to this CR and the additional work that was done. First of all, we do have an exhibit with the additional trust lands, tribal trust lands, that would be dedicated to the company. Those total 7,500 acres, 7,531 acres. There's some dry farmland and the pipeline placeholder acquired, and then I think 400 and some acres of irrigated farmland in the Bighorn Valley that are included in Section 1, the additional tribal trust lands. In Section 2, where we talk about the East Prior Ranch, with some quite a bit of research and work by the Land Management Department, Rose Hogan particularly, we were able to research and clarify which of those lands the tribe did have put back in the trust. Those were all done as part of Phase 4 of the 107th Crow Boundary Settlement Act, which is a little before my time. I don't know all the things that were done under that act, but most of that land was put back in the trust. The total amount of land in the East Prior Ranch, we've also added the acreage, is 11,685 acres. Another addition that the committee discussed to the jar was the use of the Hairpin or Arrow Creek Ranch lands for this season if additional grass is necessary for the cattle operations. And we put together a revision that would allow the company to request or to notify the land management department that it needs that additional grass this year and they could use it. And I think, I know Jay just brought up the question whether there needs to be some additional approval mechanism or just a notification. And I would leave that to the elected decision makers. Finally, we also then worked on the tribal lease ordinances applicability, and it would be limited, the ordinance would not apply to the operations of the company on these lands that are dedicated for its use, that is, on these tribal lands. It would still, for other leasing purposes, it would still be subject to the leasing ordinance. We also talked about for 5 years, the company would not be required to make lease payments on those lands. And then after the end of 5 years, that would be reestablished, any lease rate by JAR, and it would be at least 1/2 of the minimum lease rate for certified co-operator preference rates. So again, the lease ordinance would be suspended as it applies to lands that are dedicated for the company's use. It could use any of these lands for 5 years with no lease, paying no rent or lease, and after that it would be at least half of the crow preference lease rate. And then finally, we added another section, section 5, that would reserve the authority of the legislature and executive acting together to withdraw or add to lands designated to the company. In the event that some of these lands are needed for other purposes that add more value to the tribe than what the company's use of it does. So this would allow the chairman, by a request of the legislature, to ask that lands be added or withdrawn, and the legislature, by legislative resolution, to approve that additional withdrawal. And I think that's a quick summary of the discussions and changes that have been drafted so far. I guess speaking with Senator Stewart, it sounds like some further discussion may be necessary. So I have also reviewed this with Jordan Whiteman at the company, and his comment was just we'd like the chance before you take away lands to justify our keeping those lands, just to have some due process there. So, Mr. Speaker, that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
We'll reserve the questions for debate. Are there any more proponents in the presentation? Okay, at this time, this was in Natural Resources Committee. Representative Conrad Stewart, you have a recommendation.
Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and legal counsel. At this time, we're going to hold this in committee, and this is one of the items I did speak with you about, making a request for a special session at a later date. We do have some things that came up. I did speak with the chairman, and we were going to have a meeting with as a shareholder committee member, myself, and then Bryce being on the shareholder committee as well. There's some decisions that have to be made, and there's a meeting has to be held with our board. We've never had a meeting with the board. They don't know nothing about this. And so we need to bring them up to speed. They need to be part of this process as decision makers of this company. They need to be a part of this process and understand their role in this company. And so this is something that the chairman and I talked about, and we still need to have a further meeting to get a markup. And at that meeting, I'd like to have that, the discussion with our board, have them come on board with us, at least know exactly where we're at. We all move at the same pace. Right now, they're not too familiar with the authorities that they do have. And so we had a discussion of the shareholder committee working directly with the board and letting them understand that they do need to meet and establish their bylaws and whatnot and move forward. So at this time, it's not, I'm a proponent of this, but we want to start off on a good foot and not keep anybody in the dark. We do have a board that needs to understand where we're coming from, the intent, the direction, and the focus and vision that we have for this company. So right now, there's just too much miscommunication, and we need to tie everything together. So with that, for the legislative body, we are going to keep it committee.
So you're making that in form of a motion?
To make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Speaker.
Second by Bryce Hughes. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All abstain? Motion carries 14-0-0 in the Natural Resources Committee for the record. Okay, moving on to the second item on joint action resolutions and new business. A joint action resolution entitled resolution approving the Crow Tribe's limited waiver of sovereign immunity in the Oka Marina concession contract with the Natural Park Service. Floor recognizes Mr. Burchat. Mr. Burchat.
Hello, Speaker, Secretary, members of the body. I am presenting a joint action resolution introduced by Darren Old Coyote, Chairman, Crow Tribal Executive Branch. Joint action resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislature and the Crow Tribal Executive Branch entitled Resolution Approving the Crow Tribe's Limited Waiver of Sovereign Immunity in the Oka Bay Marina concession contract with the National Park Service.
Any motion to adopt? Motion by Conrad Stewart, second by Bryce Hughes. Proceed.
Whereas pursuant to Article 5, Section 2A of the 2001 Crow Tribal Constitution, the Crow Tribal Legislature, hereinafter the Legislature, it is vested with the power and duty to promulgate and adopt laws, resolutions, ordinances, codes, regulations, and guidelines in accordance with the 2001 Crow Constitution and federal laws. And whereas, since the start of the Yellowtail Dam and Bighorn Lake, the United States Department of Interior National Park Service granted the Crow Tribe the right as master concessionaire of the Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area. And whereas the Crow Tribe has negotiated with the United States Department of Interior National Park Service to exercise its right through temporary contract as the concessionaire of the Oka Bay Marina at the Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area. And whereas the United States Department of Interior National Park Service has prepared the attached concession contract number TC-BICA 007-14, hereinafter the concession contract for the tribe to provide fuel sales and slip and boat rentals. And whereas the United States Department of Interior National Park Service required the limited waiver of sovereign immunity provision in the concession contract in order to enforce the contract and allow for claims by visitors, and whereas the concession contract will be overseen, including implementation of the contract terms and operations of the and operation of the concession by the Absaroka Nation Tourism Department within the Crow Tribe Department of Economic Development. And whereas the Crow Tribe Department of Economic Development has done extensive research and found the project would be profitable for the tribe. And whereas the initial startup costs of $76,000 for the purchase of pontoon boats, merchandise, and fuel will be funded through legislative resolution number 14-04's drawdown of $1.2 million from the Economic Development account at First Interstate Bank, which will be paid back into the account once the concession contract becomes profitable. And whereas the chairman of the executive branch has authority and responsibility pursuant to the enumerated powers in Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution and bylaws of the Crow Tribe of Indians to represent the Crow Tribe in negotiations with federal, state, and local governments and other agencies, corporations, associations, or individuals in matters of welfare affecting the Crow Tribe, and to negotiate and approve limited waivers of sovereign immunity when such a waiver is necessary for business purposes in accordance with Article 5, Section 2F of the Constitution. And whereas the chairman of the executive branch has negotiated the terms of the limited waiver of the Crow Tribe sovereign immunity as set forth in Section 1 of the concession contract. And whereas the legislative branch has authority and responsibility pursuant to its powers and duties in Article 5, Section 2F of the Constitution to grant final approval or disapproval of limited waivers of sovereign immunity by the executive branch when waivers are necessary for business purposes. And whereas entering into the concession contract is in the best interest of the Crow Tribe, and the limited waiver of sovereign immunity is necessary for the business purpose of entering into the concession contract. Now therefore be it resolved by the Crow Tribal Legislature and the Crow Tribal Executive Branch, Section 1, that the limited waiver of sovereign immunity in the form set forth in the concession contract number TC-BICA 007-14 attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference is hereby approved. Section 2, that the approval granted herein is effective on the date of execution of the concession contract.
Thank you. You have 30 minutes to present.
As background, Tim Fallsdown, he's from the Absaroka Nation Tourism Department, worked extensively with the National Park Service in bringing this contract together, and he did research into the profitability of the tribe acting as the concessionaire at the Oka Bay Marina, and found that there's several areas of economic development, including the fuel sales and the sale of merchandise, but he found that the pontoon boat rentals was the most profitable. And initially he was purchasing, I believe, 3 boats, but has since purchased an additional 3 from the previous owner, Jack Joyce, which will make the tribe acting as the concessionaire an even more profitable venture. Additionally, Bill was helpful in working with the National Park Service in negotiating the terms of the limited waiver of sovereign immunity so that it was fair to the tribe and that it limited contract gains to $10,000 and tort gains to only up to the extent of the tribe's insurance policy, so as not to touch the tribe's assets and tribal trust property and assets. At the most recent Economic Development Committee meeting, the contract was discussed extensively, and members of the committee asked several in-depth questions that were answered by myself, Bill Watt, as well as Tim Fallsdown. And at that meeting, it was determined that it was ready for passage, so I will give it to the chair of the committee if there's no other presentations.
Any Any more, is that it? Any more responses? Proponents? Okay, at this time, I believe this was designated to the Infrastructure Committee. Committee Chair Conrad Stewart, do you have any recommendation?
Yeah, at this time, I just wanted to speak as a proponent real quick before I give my recommendation. I don't know how many took advantage of the 4th of July weekend and seen how everything is going. Going out there, I mean, there's just so many people that showed up that I know they had that, I don't know, who all attended that free barbecue and concert and everything, but if not, I mean, you guys need to get involved. I mean, there's a lot of good things going on. And then again, there's a lot of racism because of this issue. I mean, it's sad to hear that on that very day. There was a disagreement and a dispute between a tribal member and a non-member. And a non-member sprayed gas on a tribal member with the intent possibly to start a fire. But Greenwood County cops and the IA and everybody were on watch. There's really not too much negative activity going on up at the marina. Everybody's pretty impressed and how everything's going. They're keeping a tight ship. I've been keeping an eye on things up there as well. I know the members from the Bighorn District have been too. There was just some instances of trying to remember that got sent up there without the chairman's knowledge, and that person just sat there, brought her grandchildren, sat with her husband, smoked a few cigarettes, sat around, never did nothing. That's not the kind of activity we need, especially at during this first year, we're under watch. So the new boats, I don't know if they came in yet, but I know that they were using the older boats, Jack Joyce's, and they were doing really good. A lot of money was made with little inventory that they had. They just now started cooking hamburgers. I mean, there was just so much going on that, you just wouldn't believe how good this is going. And I'm hoping that we continue to move forward with this positive move. A lot of people downtown don't like the actions that are going on because they're afraid. They're afraid that the Crow tribe is waking up, and rightfully so we are. The Yellowtail Market is now under the tribes. I know that Bighorn District members, the representatives here, senators, have retained a manager there, and that was a good move for a smooth transition. We have tribal members working at that facility. I know they're still waiting on moving the casino games, machines in there, but overall, everything's working out pretty good up there. There's just a lot of activity every day. You guys need to take advantage of this. This is your backyard to take a look at what's going on up there. This is the first time a Crow has ever got up there and had a concert and sang in that canyon. This is a monumental time in Crow history that Crows are taking over this area here, and we're taking time. I mean, they've done it before, but they've never done it to this extent to where Crows are waking up. The tribe bought the store, the Yellowtail Market, and the Okanagan Marina, and now there's a lot. We're holding these boats, they're doing tours, and people are really surprised at how the tribe's moving forward and doing good. We've got a good crew out there right now. Young people running around selling a lot of gas out there. Gas is $4.88 a gallon of premium, and it's going quick. The one thing, my recommendation here, I think Jay brought something here on some shortages, but I think that should come in the form of an amendment, right, Jay?
Post substitute, yeah.
Or post substitute. But, we did have a meeting at 2 p.m. June 11th, 2014 was Wednesday. I called the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The invocation was given by Senator Paul Spotahorse. There were 6 members present. More came in. We do have a sign-in sheet of 12 people in attendance. The executive official at the meeting at the time was A.J. Onfray, executive secretary, and legal counsel Jay Harris, as well as Margaret was in attendance, and the other tribe members. And so at this time, a motion was made to approve the OPEB contract. Motion was made by Senator Burdenground, Senator goes ahead second, Senator Hill question. There was a consensus vote of 7 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. The motion was approved. And so at this time, as committee chairman, I do give a recommendation for approval of this contract. One thing I just want to make mention, Mr. Speaker, is that we do have 60 days in the contract before we finalize the contract. And so we utilize this time in that 60 days to bring it to the floor in quarterly session rather than special session because of the, out of respect, we held off from having our special session because of the death and the funeral of the respected elder in our community. So at that time, we went ahead and moved it over here to the quarterly session, which we're still within our 60 days, so we're fine. But I do encourage the body to, as a proponent, to pass this, and we're doing pretty good. Everybody's doing really well. A lot of the voters, they're excited about tribe taking over. They see a lot more potential. So if we ever get this 10-year, whatever concession year we have, we can cash in on the Bighorn Canyon Act, where it states in there that the Crow tribe will have the concessionaire on the Montana side within the park area. That's 52 miles from Barry's Landing all the way into Oak Tribe Marina. So at this time, I just want to thank everyone. Oh.
Okay, thank you, CJ. At this time, the floor is now open for debate. Organized crossing goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary Pro Tem, members of the body, and all the legals. I have a question on this proposed bill. My question is that are there going to be any reporting? Jay, are they still going to report this? You know, one of the things that I just don't want to take things for granted. I want us to get paid fully. They're going to be in reporting. If not, I want, when we get to the amendments, I want to make an amendment that this money is fully paid. We get reports that it's fully paid from the profits that it makes. So can you answer that question? Was that in the goal of the bar that was passed of the $7 million? I know that there was some provision in there for reporting. Mr. Speaker, this is on to answer you.
Okay, who can answer that? Bill? Is this in the jar where they will be reporting on the financials? Is Bill up?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, I don't recall whether that is in the jar that granted the funding originally for the LR for the C-Store project. I guess that's also applicable here. Without disagreeing at all with the need for reporting, I think that's part of the plan for all these stores. In fact, I think the original bank loan jar maybe has something, but now I'm just shooting off the hip. I would just suggest that that's where it more appropriately belongs than in this particular limited waiver that the Park Service will want to see it, and I don't think it's any of their business what kind of financial reporting our concessionaire does. But I'll leave that up to
you again.
Did you want to have a response? Jay?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary Pro Tem, members of the body, all the legals in the room. The answer, basically straightforward answer, is that there is no specific reporting duty on executive for this portion of the $1.2 million that was authorized by legislative resolution to be drawn down from the economic development account for the specific purpose of reservation convenience store projects. Whether or not it's appropriate to put this in the joint action resolution as an additional section is totally your decision. Park Service doesn't care, as Bill noted. They won't care if you put it in there, in the jar, not the contract, but the jar itself, the resolution. If you want reporting, don't be afraid to ask for it. And the most powerful place you can put it in a request form is tribal law. So again, I guess I would just leave it at that. That's the short version answer, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Jay. Hey, now this contract on the waiver, reporting the Daja sheet much.
Oh, you don't have to do it now.
Yeah. Any more questions for debate? Opponents? Or this, nice and go on.
Yes. Yeah, I got a question on, if the tribal may want to rent a boat, is there any way they would give them like 25% off, or, you know, there's a couple people that wanted to rent a boat that are tribal members? That's kind of my question there.
This one is on a limited waiver in regards to the contract with Okalaya Marina. And AQ would be on a separate issue, right? CJ, if I'm right. But anyway, if somebody wants to answer that question for future references, maybe Bill or someone or Jay.
Well, yeah, it definitely is a question that should be addressed by future legislation, but the answer is it's up to the executive branch. There's no arm's length business instrumentality that's administering this contract. It's the Crow tribe through the executive branch, so ultimately it would be up to the executive branch, and Tim Alston who has been appointed that function. So I guess it would be up to Tim if he was to grant some kind of a waiver or some kind of special on the rental rates. This is a one-year contract, so in the future, in the very near future, you guys are going to be presented with a long-term contract. That'd be a really good question to present at that time.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have a question.
It's just 1 year contracts. I'm certain. 1 year contract.
Or probationary
contract, so then we pass this, the next thing we come back again, but it's gonna be a long term.
I believe it's a 10-year contract, isn't it?
This is a 1 year, isn't it?
No, I mean after our probation. But that's
Everyone's been saying 10 years, but my understanding from speaking with NPS is it's 5 years.
okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Conrad.
I think the discussion on the 10-year issue was, it was mentioned that, you know, in the long term, that we can continue to have these contracts, you know, it's 5 years. I know, Jack Joyce had it every 5 years. The problem that they are having out there is, just issues concerning, market values on rentals. As far as the 25% discount, I don't know, that's really not our call. That's, that'd be micromanaging if we try to throw that in there. That's actually their call up there. I know that there's 6 boats, there used to be 3 for rentals, and they have 1 overnight slip. And they have 1 tribal member that's actually, benefiting from slip rental. And the slips are those slots where the boats sit. And that one is, your honorable judge, you are not afraid, has a slip. So, we do have, people there that, you know, just like land, they feel like they own it. One thing I wanted to make note is to give you guys, update on is that as good as we do here, that'll push us into the 5-year contract, but Horseshoe Bend is gonna sell gas too, and they do have camping area. And so that one's gonna be coming up for contract too, and so that's gonna be something that, will possibly be something for the Crow Tribe to look into on that side. So that's a big one, Horseshoe Bend. I don't know if you've ever looked at a map and seen how big that area is. It's gonna be a lot of Wyoming folks go from there, and if they give them a chance to tour, they can tour from that side coming into the canyon versus back coming this way. And then, if you guys ever get a chance, Jay does have a final memorandum draft of the Bighorn Canyon. And it does have a lot of the proposed sites for Barry's Landing and all that. And we do have the first right of refusal for all the concessionaire within the Montana side. That means that, even, Carbon County, we have that side too on Barry's Landing. But that's within the park area according to the contract or to the memorandum of the Bighorn Canyon Act. And that's very big language. It's only one sentence in that Canyon Act that Crow Tribe has first right of refusal for all concessionaire on the Montana side within the park area. That means everything. Whatever's gonna get built there, we can, administer it through as the concessionaire. So this is something huge that I think that, with your question, for the 1 year, that's kind of you're kind of watching us. We've had bad experiences from the past, and they don't want us to be another Sun Lodge or another Carpenter Mills or anything like that. This is something that I think that we're trying to demonstrate to the Park Service that we can handle this contract, and then going into a 5-year, this is going to be something that'll be good for us, because we've never demonstrated any investment into anything of this sort from before. We've taken over the Oakland Marina, but they've never sold hamburgers. Just all they did, just sold candy pops, stuff like that, just simple things. But they never had too much authority there. And the presence is always more National Park Service versus Crow. So now there's more of a presence of Crow than Park Service, which is good. That's what we want. And so going forward to this 5-year contract, and ultimately possibly a contract for Horseshoe Bend, it's going to be something that it's going to be a Crow presence in the area, because now we're investing in boats and whatnot. Now we have employees out there, and it's good to see that we have a lot of Crows out there that are willing to be a part of this. And there's so much excitement. Like I said, take some time out of your busy schedules and go up there and check it out. Maybe this branch can rent some boats and go out there. Well, take a look at it. I've never been on that lake. I was 33 years old when the first time I went out on that lake. So I know there's people out there that have never been out there. There's others that got to go out there. And then there's others that never got to see the beauty of that. We have such a great beauty here that some people have said that they've never seen it. So I encourage you. We have busy schedules. Sometimes it's good to just get away. Do something to do. Maybe a retreat for this branch. Oh.
Thank you. No more questions, comments, or you guys, Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Legislative body, losing members. I was going to ask you a question about this, as a judicial committee chair, got these little boxes down my name here, and I got limited waiver of sovereign immunity in my item here, so how does that, you address me on that, goes to natural resources?
Okay, that process goes to the Secretary of the House with the distribution of bills. The following Monday, after all bills are received, the Secretary calls for a meeting with the committee chairs, and at that time, they make a determination, decision on what bill goes to which committee. That's what is decided.
Thank
Okay. At this time, we'll move on to any recommendations for amendments. I believe there was one, so there's Jay, that said,
You want to make an explanation, Speaker, if, strikage?
okay, Laura is Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess this will be known as the Harris strike. Just kidding. If I could, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to make known for the record that the historic July 4th concert at the Oakland Arena, I did take the stage with the Jaron Stewart band, and I did play a couple songs. I played 4 songs, and I also sang 2. So if you can find a bootleg copy of that concert, indulge yourselves. I thought maybe go out there on stage too, but I heard he plays guitar, and well, if Keith Richards is still doing it, why not do a lot, right? Basically, this might be the easiest, most straightforward substitute version that we've ever entertained. Is simply to strike its entirety the second whereas. The reason is because that second whereas, the way it's written, suggests that the Park Service gave you something, Pro-Tribe. That is Pro-Tribal land. In fact, I'll note when I took the stage, I did say I gave special thanks to the Park Service for allowing the Crow Tribe to use tribal land for that purpose. Park Service isn't giving you anything that you don't already have, and that's tribal land. That whereas suggests that the Park Service is granting you something. No such thing. We're talking about potential 5-year contracts. Remember that if that memorandum of agreement that was signed in December of 1967, if it ever was effective, it is no longer effective December of 2017. So at that point in time, if there is going to be a Park Service presence at the Okabam Marina, it will be on such terms and conditions as the Crow Tribe says. December 1st, 1967 to December 1st, 2017, if that MOA was ever in effect. So this whereas just clarifies that we're not conceding that the Park Service has granted the Crow Tribe master concessionaire. They have recognized through their management plan that we have master concessionaire, and that's important. But as to the Okabam Marina, Senator Stewart is making important points because it's the entire mountain portion, including those off-reservation portions. We've got that under the master plan that they follow, but Okabam Marina especially because it's Crow Tribal land. It's been Crow Tribal land since time immemorial. It's always been tribal land, and that's something that we take this whereas, strike out the second whereas. It simply just clarifies, or it takes out of the equation a potential argument they could turn around and make and say, well, you guys are recognizing that MOA was valid because you're putting in your resolutions that we granted you the master concessionaire. The only way we would have is if that MOA was in effect. So it's just a clarifier to remove the second whereas. I guess that's as much as I can probably speak to it. Mr. Speaker, appreciate it. Thank you.
Laura is Mr.
Speaker, we need to make it clear for the record. I can make that motion to strike the second whereas.
Okay.
I'll make that official now.
Okay, by motion, striking whereas, the second whereas, can you read it for the record, which whereas?
The second whereas, since the start of the Yellowtail Dam and Bighorn Lake, the United States Department of Interior National Park Service granted the Crow Tribe the right as master concessionaire at the Bighorn Canyon National Recreation Area. And that's the whereas that we need to strike. I make that motion.
Okay, second by Conrad, or Council goes with it. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carries 14-0-0. Okay, moving to any more amendments, any more recommendations for amendments. Lord, as Will walk.
Speaker, a minor point. Since this is a joint action resolution, at least on behalf of the executive branch, I would request that you style that last action as adopting a substitute resolution with which the executive branch completely concurs and concurs in all of Jay's comments as well. Make that request. Thank you.
Okay, so rather than being an amendment, that would be a substitute, right?
If I may, I think that would come in, if we wanted to cease debate now and go into final roll call vote upon the substitute version, that would suffice, right? On the request.
Go ahead, parliamentarian.
My recommendation would be to withdraw your guys' motion and go back to the amendment and adopt the substitute within that.
Okay, anyone can recall that motion since everybody voted in favor of it.
I'll recall.
Recall by Conrad Stewart,
You know, withdraw.
second by Crossing Rosehead. For recall, all in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carried, 14-0-0. Okay, now we can make that motion to,
Okay, at this time, I make a motion to cease debate, go into final roll call vote, and pass the substitute version.
you need to make clarify that there would be a substitute version that removes the second whereas by
motion.
by concurrence with the executive.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we remove the second whereas with concurrence by the executive branch.
That's it. As a substitute
Whereas
version.
second reading.
Second by Cross Rosehead. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carried, 14-0-0. Okay, you want to make that motion to,
Okay, going back to the motion. Okay, I make the motion to cease debate, go into final roll call vote upon the substitute version.
waive second reading
Waive second reading
with the substitute
with the
version.
substitute version, okay.
Second.
Second by Cross Rosehead. All in favor, raise your right hands. All opposed? All abstained? Motion carried, 14-0-0. Moving on to final roll call. Black Lodge will proceed.
Dan, Black yes.
Stewart, Blacklock, yes.
Yeah, Reno, yes.
Naomi Lanchas, yes.
Rowan, Roster, yes.
Saul Speaker, yes. Green, yes.
Rosehead, Apple, yes.
Zero Creek, yes. Good luck, Mighty Few, yes.
Burton Brown, yes. Reno.
JJ, yes. Mr. Secretary Pro Tem, what is the ballot?
14, yes.
14 yes.
0 no. 0 abstaining.
Okay, that's carried. This resolution, joint action resolution is now passed the legislative branch. Is there anybody want to say something on behalf of this legislation?
I'll speak real quick. Just wanted to, again, I think the body here needs to make an effort to go out there and, see how good a job that our people are doing out there. When I walked in to the office Sunday night, they were in the back counting money. And they were counting a lot of money. So they gave one of the employees the ride home because they had to stay late to count money. And they missed the ride. So one other thing too is, we're gonna have transits going back and forth now. So, that's something I wanna, utilize, explain to your constituency that there will be a route established for up to Oak Bend and to Fort Smith. So, I'll vote for the passage.
Thank you. Speaker Reed is ordered.
I just wanted to thank the committee, and pretty much I agree with Senator Conrad Stewart about just getting out there and observing for yourself the beauty of these lands, because you should be proud of them. And I have heard stories of success so far, so I think it's on the right track and on the right track for the long-term 5-year agreement. And again, thank you very much, members of the committee.
Thank you. Lord, Ms. Secretary Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body, Legal J, Legal, the rest of the Legal, and Alonzo. Lorenzo. There's a lot of racism over there. 있으면 저희가 considered relative Australia take over by the second Indians are taking over Fort Smith. So I too would say yes. I think I'm a proponent that it solved at least last close to the even moved. CJ 실고 싶었다. 나가 믿으면서 믿음만으로 있다시. 어떻게 믿음이 있다시. 우리 포는 그렇고 이 구조화들이라서
Thank you. Okay, at this time, time is now 3:48. I believe I will need a motion for recess till tomorrow at 10 a.m. Motion by Bryson Rogers, second by Carlson Boozehead. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, CJ, I think you have a meeting in the morning, right?
Yeah, just a quick announcement. We have a meeting tomorrow. It's concerning the water code. We are incorporating the language to this water code so we can get it on the floor for recommendation. We do have the public hearings. We have a few things that we're going to be adding to this water code, and if we have time, I'd like to try to get that A and B. We do have a template of it ready to roll. And so that's something that's going to possibly go to the floor as well.